Welcome to Carolina Sculpture Studio. My name's Clint Button, and I'm a granite sculptor. Welcome to video number 188 of the Virtual Stone Carving Apprenticeship. I wanted to do a short video, probably be 30 minutes long like most of them are, without having to intersperse this with working, with carving. I'm going forward, the next however many long, few weeks it takes to point this, to point the detail of the bust onto this stone. It's pretty boring. I mean, it's going to be just carving some stone away and then spinning the drill and then measuring it and then putting the point in there and putting a red dot and going to the next one and doing the next one and the next one and the next one. And this isn't as nuanced or as complicated to do as using compass and triangle. The pointing machine is for, I want to say lay people. The pointing machine is typically used, and it may even get a bad rap in some ways, because you would hire a sculptor or an artist to create a clay. And everybody oohs and ahs because they're a wonderful, talented person if you get somebody that's really good, and they really do a great job. But usually those people don't carve stone. Very few people that do that carve granite. There's people who do that carve marble, but there ain't many of them that carve granite. And so they farm it out to somebody else. They subcontract the actual carving of the job to a stone carver who is not a sculptor, who does not create the work from beginning to end. And so the idea is you can take somebody that's a really talented expert in terms of artistic talent, or they may have a MFA, or they may be well trained, to where their time is very expensive and very valuable, and you can go hire some guy that uses pull-on boots because he can't tie shoes, that might not be worth as much money, or understand that he's not getting health insurance, or she's not getting a full-time job out of this, and hire them to actually do the stone carving with the pointing machine. So it's a way around it, but in this unique place where I exist, I can do it from start to finish. I can do the finish work, I can do the stone cutting work, I can do the model work and the casting and everything, so I'm able to do all of it. And when you swing compasses, that's a very straightforward process too, but it's very, by comparison, it's a lot harder than using a point machine. And doing something on a relatively flat job like she was, where it's pretty flat, I don't like it. It's not what I like doing. It's not a fun thing to do. But anyways, somebody had asked me about the video and said they didn't want to post it in the comments because they didn't want anybody to get the wrong impression about how good they were or how good they weren't. And I got a lot of people that have, like, you can call me, contact information is right there on, just all you gotta do is a little bit of effort, work, make the connection. And we have a lot of people, I do email and all that stuff, once we connect, it's not a big deal. So, but he asked me as to why the points that I was shooting were so close together on her hand. There were just all these points, and they were just, right within a little tiny area. And why did I do that instead of spreading them way out? And so I wanted to bring that up going into this, so you know why I'm doing what I'm doing compared to what I've already shown you. And I'm just gonna grab my thing here and read it to you as to what I said. I said it was worried it would sound like a novice question. He didn't want to sound like somebody that wasn't paying attention. And this is somebody that's watched every video that I've done start to finish. He's one that I understand has watched the entire everything. And so I said, no, it's not a novice question. The easy answer is to compare what I'm doing with closely placed points versus widely spaced points to file size or pixelation in digital images. Because everybody knows that nowadays. If you've been doing the internet stuff, the digital stuff with digital cameras for the last several years, 20 years ago when I started the studio, and then got into the internet stuff, because in the beginning I really wasn't doing any internet stuff. And a few years later I got into doing the internet stuff and more. And you know, you'd do a file and it was 500 kilobytes. And that was like a big file. It'd take put your internet right on the floor to email it to anybody. See, nothing about put 3 or 4 of them in an email. You had to send each email separate. And now, you know, that's like doesn't even count. It's got to be like 5 meg or 6 megabytes or something like that. But if you compare the points, closely spaced versus widely spaced, to file size or pixelation digital images, large pixel images, like widely spaced points, are convenient in terms of speed and file size to transmit, because you can do them really fast and deal with them fast, but they're very poor in terms of accuracy and detail. Okay, when you get a picture and you blow it up, it's all pixelated with all those big squares in it. You can't see anything. Nothing's accurate. Big files are slower to transmit, but their fine pixels convey high levels of very, very accurate, they convey high levels of detail very accurately. And that's what I'm trying to do with this. Okay, and so for this job in particular, for some jobs like pointing I did with compass and triangle and enlarging her lower torso up to about her waist from the 2/3 scale model that's there behind me, I shoot fewer points as major landmarks, and then I connect the dots by eye. I carve directly. And you can see on some of the videos where I title them where I'm saying carving direct or carving compass and triangle. Once I had some landmark points put together, I did more of it just by eye. I looked at it, carved like people think you do. With enough experience, I can do this while understanding that most people are not going to be focusing their attention on the side of her thigh or the drapery around her ankle, okay? By contrast, her hands and her face are likely to command more attention and scrutiny, so I'll point those details more accurately from a 1-to-1 scale model. And I hope that helps clarify why I'm shooting the points like I'm shooting them. And I'll be very, I'm not going to shoot an exhausted million number of points on her blouse, you know, right here. I don't care, because I'm going to get it really close, get some landmarks, and they'll be widely spaced. But stuff like her hands, stuff like her face and everything, I'm going to shoot a lot of points, okay? And then I can go back to, you know, I went through and proofed it as I was setting up. I didn't show you this, but I probably should have, that I went through and set a bunch of points on here to make sure that her shoulder is accurate. Because right now she looks weird because this arm is massively big. Her shoulder is, you know, there's another inch or inch and a half of stone sticking out here that's all going to disappear because her shoulder is more in here. And when we start contouring that, it's going to balance a lot of this out. And you'll see that, and you've got to trust the process, okay? You've got to trust the process. And trusting the process, like I said, goes back to the beginning of doing all that mundane, boring work. Stuff I don't want to do, stuff I'm sick of doing, stuff I've tried and I've tried and I've tried, and it just doesn't seem, it takes forever, and then all of a sudden you're done. And there's no roar of the crowd, and there's no bells and whistles and, you know, big, you know, confetti celebrate. It isn't. It's just one more thing. All right, now go do the next thing. Okay, now pick the floor up because there's a bunch of stuff on the floor you got to pick up. So you've got to learn that the benefit and the reward is what it is. And it may not be what you think it will be. Okay? And so the goal is, in the end, that we've got a very wonderful looking angel right here. That everything is the way it's supposed to be. Most importantly, it's the way I said it would be back when I first talked to the patron, consulted with the patron, worked it out and said, this is what I can do. And I know that I can produce that result in my own mind if I follow all these steps, okay? And this is where I wanted to go with this video as well. And some of y'all may just skip out. I don't care. You know, do whatever you do. you're going to have certain opportunities in what you do if you do something like this for work. You're going to have certain amounts of success and lack of success. I don't want to say failures because that's not the right word for what I'm doing. A failure would be knocking, when there is this, what do you do when her nose pops off? Okay, well, I don't mind. That doesn't happen. I mean, I'm not going to be stupid like that. If I was stupid, yeah, it could happen. I've seen people do that, and you feel pretty bad for them when they wail on something or they do something that you know is going to be a problem and they don't want to listen. Step back and just let them follow the path they're on. But you may have a lot of success and you may have very little success. But that isn't necessarily a bad thing. You have to understand what you've accomplished. I'm getting up. This is video 188, and it's hard for me to wrap my head around that. It really is. It's hard for me to understand when I look that I've got a couple years into this, apprenticeship series, and I've tried not to be too redundant. We tried to capture work going forward and show you what this is actually like to do this kind of work, and to capture as much information as I can possibly get out there that's going to be productive towards someone watching this saying, I want to do this, so that they're not going to come up at the end and say, well, man, you never mentioned that. How come you didn't say anything about that? I got all the way into this and now I find out I got to do something completely different. I tried to show you everything all the way going along so you would be ready when the opportunity came, take advantage of that opportunity and to move forward and to succeed, regardless of what that success means. Okay. We were talking, wife and I were talking about the expectations that some people have and what we're doing to versus what it's like to actually live this lifestyle. I'll be back in just 1 second. And I'm back. My wife came down, had a question. We're putting the pool away, so she had a question. Or she's doing it and I'm helping. So, but anyways, we were talking about a lot of the things people think and the misconceptions and what they do. And we always laugh because we did right at the beginning of the studio, as soon as we got things going, we came down, we'd been out to breakfast on a Saturday morning with the whole family, everybody'd been. And at the end of it, because the studio was brand new and perfect, I had my father take a picture. He just came down, took a few pictures of us standing in the studio. My wife and my daughter, and daughter's, a year old or whatever, she wasn't even a year old at that point, I don't think, because that was, I'm trying to think the dates. That was fairly early. That was in the summer of 04. And so we snapped a picture, and I got so much grief for having a picture from all these other artists, and they go, oh wow, you're successful, you got a big studio and you got all this other stuff. And I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, we just got priorities, man. I built a studio and I'm still driving a $350 truck that I bought almost a decade before. And in 20 plus years later, I'm still driving the same truck. Okay, how much money do you spend on car payments and insurance and stuff to have a fancy car to make it look like you're successful? Instead, I had a studio. And we built it simple so it was paid for. That's why I don't have you know, air conditioning and all doors closed up and all this other stuff and a paved driveway. I don't have all that stuff because I've got priorities. I've got over 200 videos on the channel. You know, this is 188 right now to have this video going on the apprenticeship series. And, you know, we getting the last few videos, I sort of had a break for, we had some other stuff going on, worked on some other projects and got a little off pace with putting a video out every 2 or 3 days or whatever. And I'm still getting more people subscribing to the channel. I'm not charging anything for them. I'm not going to do special subscriptions to where you're only going to get the good information if you pay me money, because I don't think that's fair. You know, I'd love to have money, but it's more important that the good information is out there. You know, when I put a video out and we go a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks and we get 50 or 75 views on a video, okay? After I'm, you know, almost 200 videos into the project. And yeah, I could go through and jump through all the hoops that the algorithms want you to jump through and sign out for 2-factor authentication and open up stuff on other platforms to develop a social media presence, to have all these people to cross-reference, to mesh together. So I've got 50,000 subscribers instead of 1,500 or whatever. But what do I get from that? You know, I watched some guy and he had a shorts thing and he said he had 370 or 80,000 qualifying views or whatever it's called, verified views. And he said, I got paid. I made $360. 360 bucks. Are you kidding me, dude? I mean, I get it. I understand it's money and it's making money. But if I have to have that kind of volume to make a nominal amount of money, so YouTube can either stick you with a subscription that you got to pay to get a premium, so you have to watch, you know, every ad in the world, or breaking into my videos because I hesitate long enough that the AI or the bots or whatever think it's a good place to break it and they stick a commercial in the middle of my video. You know, I want the information to be out there. I expect people are going to download this. People are going to keep these videos. People are going to do what they want to do with these videos. I get it. Once it's out there, I don't have any control over it, per se. And do I want to be famous? That's not why I'm doing this. You know, that's why I'm not on Main Street on the corner with a big flash neon sign saying, "Hey, y'all, stop, buy me a stone, buy a stone from me." You know, I'm not doing that. And I know there's a lot of people that we all benefit from positive reinforcement. And I had degrees in psychology and all about behavioral psychology, shaping and you know, unsolicited, you know, responses and bias, and how you enforce behavior and extinguish behavior. I get that. But this goes back to what I was saying earlier. What do you really want? What is success? What do you really want? And I'd love to have this be the best stone I've ever cut. Nothing even compares to it. Maybe it will be, maybe it won't be. That's my goal. That's what I'm trying to do. Do I want it to be on the front page of every, you know, the front page of every newspaper in the world? Well, they don't have newspapers anymore, but that kind of thing. Do I want Google and Yahoo and Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, everybody say, look at this incredible stone that this man carved in South Carolina. This is such a wonderful thing. It's just incredible. You got to call him. You got to buy something from him. He's the best. He's the blah, 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 whatever. Do I want that? No, not at all. You know, they just had a Powerball big lottery drawn that was almost $2 billion, and 2 people won it. You know, we bought some tickets for one of the earlier ones, and it's a joke. You know, we don't do the lottery thing. We're just not into it. But your life is going to instantly turn into this train wreck of every person in the world is going to come out of the woodwork wanting you to give them money, take care of them, do whatever. You're going to have to barricade yourself off from the world, either physically or literally or legally or both, in order to try to find some peace with your success. I want just enough. I want her to be better than what I've done before. I'd like to be able to do better than her in the future, that this is going to be the pinnacle of my career. I'd like to have enough people watching me and learning from me that they actually do it, okay? And that might only be one person. For all this work, it might be one person. That's success to me, okay? Run in such a way that you may win the prize. If I went viral and I had tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of views on my videos, or, you know, like on each video, they just go crazy. If I had that much exposure, how could I share quality information with people that want to know more, that are actually doing it? I've got another channel with, it's linked in the, you know, on the channel, whatever, with some of my cars and motorcycle stuff. And I've got 2 or 3 videos on there. They've got tons of views. We've got a lot of views, you know, they have 30, 40,000 views or whatever. And you know, they're somewhat popular. And the comments are completely different, because somebody says, I had one like that one time, or my father or my uncle or whatever, and he drove one, and they're sharing stories because they want to be part of the community. But the difference is with what the comments I get on this channel is people say, thank you. People generally, there's like 2 or 3 comments. They like what I'm doing, thank you very much. Or they have a specific question either about the video or a project that they're working on. They're not just social comments where we're part of a group because we've all owned this car or that motorcycle. And that's, to me, is like really cool, because as I've got just a few people that are really hanging in there consistently. You know, we keep adding on more at the beginning, and then we get comments, you know, on some video that's number 50 or number 80 or whatever, and there's one more person that's watching all of them, that's coming through all of them, and they've got a very specific question, and they ask a question about, you know, these two or three topics from these 2 or 3 videos or something. And it really makes me feel great, because now I'm getting that reinforcement, because there's people that are finding me relevant, and it's hard to see the time the way it's actually out. And this, I talked about being able to, you know, see, not just look, and listen, not just hear. The person that, you know, we're 2.5 years into doing this project, I think, this video series, and the person that just falls into this, and they just, and because I'm not all cross-linked in social media, whatever, and I'm not signed up to be, you know, 2-point verification where they're going to be on a phone or a computer even more than they already are, and spying on my world so they can capture my data so they can sell it to whoever to try to fit me in. Because that's the whole point of the entire internet, all these different business structures, is they're all making money off of the backside of what we do, what we look at, what we stare at, what we enjoy, what we don't. That they're burying me. I'm not on the front page of all the searches, you know, because we'll go and search, you know, we'll go somewhere on somebody's different computer and do a quick search to see what pops up, see where I turn up. And I don't. I used to show up a lot more easily on a lot of other things. And so I know that this apprenticeship series isn't being highlighted per se by the search engine, by the algorithm on YouTube. But quality, not quantity. Okay? We're getting people that still find me. More people subscribe to the channel, just in general subscription. And more people keep watching. And it takes a long time to go through 180 something videos. You know, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't sit there and watch all of them. I get it. My life is is too short. But I do know that years ago, if I had had this opportunity to study and learn and grow and have this kind of information available, I'd be all over it. And it's hard to take yourself out of right now and put yourself where you were or someone else is 10, 20, 30 years prior to where, you know, like to go back to when I was 22 and to understand 22 the way I was when I was 22, because now I understand 22 because I'm almost 60. And I think about, oh yeah, that'll all work out. Don't worry, that's nothing to be stressed about. Even then, your life is at you know, a turning point, and you don't know what to do. You don't have any money. I see it differently, and so that's what I'm talking about with success and with what you do. There's a process. It takes time. One little point, one more little point, one more little point. There's some things that are going to matter. There's some things that won't. You know, and it's not always easy to see, but by doing the best that we can do and trying hard and following a proven method, okay? I don't care if there's only one or two people that ever get this and that follow this. That's a huge success in my life, in my craft. That means that Gary and Andy and Giuliano and Angelo and Henry and all these other people, you know, Bernie, Ryan, all these guys that I learned something from, even a little bit, Dario, you know, Ezra, you know, all these different people, they all contributed to me being a success. You know, Tom at the EGA, you know, all these guys that didn't just show me the door and kick me out, they gave me a shot. And so if I could get one person that develops real competency out of doing all this, that's great. That's the whole point. And so we'll get enough work to survive. We might get enough work to thrive. You might find out that what you do places you in a position that's very unique, where you're able to learn and benefit to do other things well, because you've got other opportunities because of the liberties or freedoms that your path has provided you. You know, when you spend years being broke, and I mean, you know, really, you know, you're swapping stuff to pay bills and whatever, waiting for people to pay you and for finally to decide on a stone because we've been working on it for years and you just can't make up your mind. And you know, every week you put that off while you're going to work. I'm not selling that job. Then all of a sudden, when you get to the shore, you know, after you've been struggling out in the open water, treading water for years, you finally get your feet on the ground, and then you finally get to shore, you realize how amazingly easy it is to stretch resources to cover all kinds of things. So if you're discouraged and you want to do this, if you're trying and you can't figure out what to do, I'd like you to step back and look at the numbers on my channel. You just pull up go to the, you know, get on your little computer thing and pull it up, and click on Carolina Sculpture Studio on the YouTube channel, whatever, and click videos. And look at that. Big old, I used to look at people's videos and they had 100 videos. And I was like, man alive, I don't know how in the world they could ever have 100 videos. That's crazy. And you look at all my videos and you look at the numbers of views on those videos and how nominal they are. I mean, and maybe this will be different in a few years. I don't know. You know, they're saying AI is going to take over the whole world within a decade, and we're all going to be out of work and who knows. But at this point in 2025, you know, this is September 2025. You pull up my stuff and you look at all the views. Okay, I think I can say I'm an expert at this. I know what I'm doing. I'm not stupid. You know, I've got decades of doing this as a professional. I don't have a lot of people that are above me left in the industry. There's a few, you know, some of the old men is still cutting, but there's not. I've got a relatively, the competition's not on every street corner. I know what I'm doing, and I'm doing it right, and I can do a good job. And you look at my level of success. You look at how many people watch these videos. So, and understand that, you know, I'm working hard to get this result. Put that in comparison, just as maybe as a benchmark to what you're doing. If you think it's a struggle, okay? We all have to struggle, but one point at a time, one chip at a time, one little piece of dust at a time, and you keep going forward. If you do it in an organized manner and trust the process, the end result, something really nice. So don't get discouraged, okay? Just wanted to tell you to hang in there, because, you know, we're, like I said, to the very first video, you know, you just carve an angel, you know, just whip it out. There's a lot to it. Look at how much has been involved in doing this project to get to this point. You know, from cutting the base, you know, from having to fix the stone because it came with defects, and at that point in the industry, that was as fast as we get the stone, and so I just got to deal with it. So we've got to rearrange things, and you know, there's all these things that can come up. Run in such a way that you may win the prize, okay? And keep moving forward. Don't get discouraged, even when it's pretty discouraging, okay? And I'll try to give you all the information that I can possibly give you about doing this, as far as doing the stone and doing this work, and not mislead you in any way, shape, or form. And so if I have one or two people when I'm 70 that are actually cutting stone and say, thanks, Button, you know, you opened doors for me. You made this possible in ways that nobody else ever did. I win, even if it's just one or two people, okay? So, look, don't just, you know, do more than just look at something, see what it is, all right? All right, another long talking video, and I'm gonna try to feed these videos in as I go forward, and I in my mind, I wanna hold off and have like a whole bunch of holes drilled so I can show you that it progresses. And I don't know, I don't really see me talking as much on this, because so much of this is just plain old boring. Put the needle there, does it fit? Make it fit, do the next one, do the next one, do the next one. And so we'll see. All right. Thanks for listening. I hope it helps. My name's Clint Button. I'm a granite sculptor here at Carolina Sculpture Studio with the Virtual Stone Carving Apprenticeship. Thanks for coming in.